would just tell my dear viewers that I'm so glad to announce that I have, started a new series of talk show where I would invite different expert guests and they would talk about different topics or issues. So today I have invited in my show Sister Waheeda Essop, and she is an occupational therapist. Along with that, she is running. She is the founder of Early Childhood Intervention Center in Benoni, and she's also running a website online store that's for branded to therapeutic, toys. And furthermore, we'll listen from her as well. So let us, invite Sister Waheeda. Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing?
Walaikum salam. I'm very well. And how are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. So, Sister Waheeda, first I would like to ask you, what is an occupational therapy and who should seek your help?
Occupational therapy is the treatment of adults and children that have any form of injury or illness, whether it be physical or cognitive. And the aim of therapy is to make that individual as independent and as functional as possible. We have many, many different fields within occupational therapy. So the most popular one is pediatrics. So that's the treatment of children. And that involves children that have any form of developmental delay. They have some kind of disability, some kind of impairment. And we want to get that child to function at his or her age, chronological age. We have the field of adults. So those are adults that have suffered some type of injury, like a spinal cord lesion or a severe car accident with broken limbs, an amputation, and they're now suffering, after having had medical treatment, they're suffering with some form of disability where they cannot do things that they used to do. So occupational therapists assist with getting that person to be as they were. So being able to, we look at every aspect of a person's life. So we look at their physical aspects. So things like, their muscle strength or their ability to do everyday tasks like walking and bending and fine motor things. And then to carry out what we call activities of daily living, like dressing, bathing, feeding, and we would look at that. We would look at their work ability, going back to work, and how would they get to where they were, and if they can't get to where they were, what are the other alternative options for them? Mm-hmm. And we would look at their free time or their social. In other words, what they were doing in their leisure, what were their leisure activities? So it's a very holistic approach. And our medium of treatment is through activities.
All right. Okay. So when parents, they come with their children's problem, like such as you would say, like milestones, development hindrance. So then how do you deal with them? Like what would be the problem solving solution? You would be just, guiding them to carry on with that.
So if a child or a parent is concerned about their children's development, what we first do as a nice step for parents also to keep in mind is some type of screening. Right. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this whole full assessment, because often you don't need to do put a child through all of that to actually just discover that he's got something very, very small, minor, that can be actually stimulated or looked at home. So a type of screening, especially when it comes to kids, to say, listen, where are you supposed to be at, and what is the problem that you actually find? And it may be such a small thing that a mom can, for example, say they're not walking yet, or they haven't been, or they're not sitting independently, or they're not grasping their pencil properly. And it's something small, and we can just advise, okay, these are the type of activities that you can do. But if there is a little bit of a problem where we're not sure why they're not doing something, or it seems to be affecting a few areas, we do what they call a full assessment. So we use standardized tests, and based on these standardized tests, we look at every aspect of their development. And with that, we then recommend type of therapy.
Okay, all right. So suppose, like as you told me earlier, that also, like children having difficulty with their reading or writing skills, like therapy you're not going to give, but like you are going to deal with different kind of activities. I would like to know about that.
Okay, so what we look at in occupational therapy is, especially now we're talking about kids, so we're not looking at their scholastic skills, and we're not assessing their scholastic skills. So we are assessing their basic abilities or the abilities needed for learning. So we will take a reading for writing, for example. Writing requires fine motor function, but then it also requires knowing the shape of the letters and how they would form. So it's some type of what we call spatial development is needed for writing. So in therapy, we would not, for example, give therapy for writing skills, but we would offer them skills or in activities needed for writing. So if, for example, a child, one of the big problems with writing is that they haven't had their fine motor skills developed. And that's actually very common with our children, with the amount of screen time that they have. They because when you're on a screen, you're only using your thumbs and maybe this finger. They're not actually doing anything else with their hands.
Right.
And it has affected children's overall fine motor development. So in therapy, we would look at specific skills within fine motor development through different activities. So whether it be type of pinching skills, grasp skills, different, and using then different activities to actually get those skills, to have a child stimulate and enhance those fine motor skills. And once they have those skills, automatically then they develop the writing skills.
All right. Okay. So mostly from which ages do you see like more patients coming to you for seeking your help?
Occupational therapy does actually start from 0 years. So if you get a prem baby, we have therapists that are specialized in neonates, and they work with babies and moms in the hospitals to actually try and stimulate those, because neonates are very, especially if they're prem, they don't fully develop and they have to have attention in certain areas from the beginning. So our starting age is 0 years, and that goes up into adulthood, although it's not as common as having kids come for therapy at a later stage. However, we do recommend early intervention. So if there's something that's, even if it's something small, have it looked at when a child is younger, because then you don't want that problem to get bigger and affect anything more than what it's affecting right now.
Okay, so like, what do you think, suppose if this milestone development do not considered, like, in early ages and not being sorted out, do you think would have very bad effects, like, when they would just be adult and would just go in their working real life? Do you think that they will affect badly with that?
So it depends on the nature of the delay. So sometimes when it is just one little area, okay, and I'll use the example of myself having a spelling problem when I was little. So I struggled with spelling, and one of the skills needed for spelling is something called visual sequential memory. So remembering something in a sequence. When that I probably had that lacking when I was younger, and I struggled then with spelling when it came to my compositions and it came to my grammar, and then I would always be then marked down for those kind of things. But had that problem be sorted out when I was younger, I wouldn't have had that, and I wouldn't have had that almost a battle when it came to my spelling challenges. But that's very minor, but it still would have saved me time it will save me marks. It will save me a little, less effort in certain things. So just like that, all of us have some kind, nobody's perfect. So we all have areas that are stronger than others.
Right.
So as a parent, it's nice to try and pick them up, to see what is this my child's weakness, and not necessarily to say, listen, my child needs intensive therapy, but maybe just to give that weakness a little bit of extra attention, extra stimulation, so that your child, the whole idea is to have children finding their true potential. And that is also what I am passionate about, also why I started the online store. And now my therapy center as well is not just about fixing and remediating, but it's also about enhancing and making whatever's just average better, so that that child can optimize their potential.
Right. Okay. Does this therapy also, work in, like, for people, maybe especially say like for adults, behavioral intervention as well? Or you are just going to explain this to me?
So one of my other fields that I work in is in the vocational or medical legal field. And these are usually with adults that have some kind of, they've had some kind of illness or injury. Most of the time they are workers, and it's usually, they have a policy, and the company then refers them to me to do what they call a functional capacity evaluation.
Right.
So what OTs is, everything about us is about function. Right. So if you get an adult that's a worker, that's employed, I'm going to assess his everything, his physical ability. In other words, his muscle strength, his range of motion in the different joints, his endurance, his fine motor skills. But I'm also going to look at his cognitive abilities. So I'm going to, but again, I'm going to look at his functional cognitive abilities. So his concentration, his memory, his problem solving skills. Then I'm going to look at his emotions. So in other words, is he, if he's suffering for example, a psychiatric disorder, but his depression is so bad that he actually can't speak to people. Okay. So that's got a functional implication, so that he cannot, if he's working in a place with a lot of people where he has to actually communicate with them, he would obviously struggle. I would also look at his interpersonal and his language skills. And does he have that sufficient for him to do his work? And occupational therapy then offers therapy for those specific areas. But again, it's therapy. So I wouldn't, whereas a psychologist or a counselor would assist the person with dealing with their emotions. Okay. And the cause of the emotions and working through those emotions. Occupational therapy will deal with dealing with those emotions in the work environment. Okay. So if you are feeling sad, but you still need to actually get up and you need to actually interact with people, you need to do your job, how do you do that? So that's usually the focus of our therapy.
Okay. So I've also seen on your website your online store. So I'm like, would you just explain a bit about that? Like, what kind of toys do you guys offer, and like, what's the system for that?
So the ECI store is a lockdown baby. So our other work came to a halt with COVID, and we started the online store. And again, I've always been passionate about stimulating children, finding them, letting them optimize their potential. And one of the other things that I also have done prior to COVID, I'm going to say pre-COVID, is workshops for parents and teachers. Okay. So I believe in empowering parents and teachers to actualize children's potential. Right. And I find that having the right toy, okay, a most suitable toy, is one way to actually do that. Right. So because again, it's in line with me as an occupational therapist. We use activities as our medium of treatment. So just like it is a medium of treatment, it's also a tool to enhance development. So the toys that we keep, the value of the toy is highlighted in the store. We have different ways where you can shop. So you can shop via developmental area. So it's not your standard construction and games. It's you can shop via creative. You can shop via fine motor skills. You can shop via language. So if you want to stimulate those particular areas, you can shop in that area. Then you can also shop via the age, but the age that we set on our store is not the age that you would get in a box. So normally it's, you know, they say most toys are suitable for 3+, purely because they have small parts. Right. But our age on the website is the minimum age a child can potentially actually play with that toy. So we have a very big range of toys. So we have over 300 different products. Wow, we keep quality brands like Melissa and Doug, Jayco, Meccano. We've got some orchid toys now recently. And we also keep toys for therapists, and as well as stuff for teachers. In a normal preschool or a special school. And what's nice about the website is if you are not sure what you want to buy. So if you have you're buying for your grandchild or your niece, or you're buying for your child, but you're not sure whether that's really age appropriate, or you want to stimulate a certain area, then you can either go to our Ask the Therapist page, or there's a brief form there, or you can WhatsApp us from the website and say, listen, I've got a child that's 5 years old and I want to stimulate his outdoor play a little bit more. What would you recommend? And we would give you some suggestions also based on your budget. Oh, that is so nice. You know, I'm just going to have a look of your website as well. You know, that's just creating more interest in that. So like, you know, and that is also good for parents. They can have complete guidance from your, you know, your specialists and experts. Okay, so how can people get hold of you? Would you just like to give your contact details? Sure, the best is actually the website. So it's www.ecistore. And by the way, ECI stands for Early Childhood Intervention. ecistore.co.za. We have the WhatsApp function on there. So they're welcome to WhatsApp us on the website. They can also send us an email that's at hello@ecistore.co.za. And we are based in Benoni, but for people that are living outside of Benoni, we do have an option because we are linked to an early childhood intervention center. Right. And that is a team of therapists that work together to assist any kind of children with any kind of developmental problems. So that's we have another OT, we have a speech therapist, a physio, a dietitian, as well as an educational psychologist as part of our team. Right. But if a parent is concerned about their development, they don't know where to go, and they want some guidance, they can also arrange a virtual consult. We have that on the website as well as an option. So this gives parents some kind of guidance as to where to go, or sometimes it's something very minor that they can actually just sort out at home or stimulate at home. But sometimes it may be a little bit bigger where they do need a professional to come in and say, listen, let's do an assessment. Let's see where we're at. Okay. All right. So I'm going to end this session for today. And it was really, very lovely talking to you. And well, thanks a lot for joining. And inshallah, I'll be inviting you in any other episode as well. So Jazakallah so much. See you, inshallah. A pleasure. Okay. Walaikum salam. Walaikum salam.